healthcare, there is often too much information and not enough time. Here at the Melanin Initiative, we avoid TMI by breaking things down into language you can understand. We create a safe space for you to ask your questions and share our nursing perspective without taking up too much of your time. Today, we're super excited. We're in season 3. In season 2, we rolled out our new series called Becoming. We have Becoming a Physician with Clarence Sams, who's a medical student right now at Charles Drew. We have Becoming Doctor of Nursing Practice with Demetrius Kirk, who's out in Hawaii. And today we introduce our new series, Becoming a Midwife, with our guest star, Doula Bean. In this episode, we're going to learn about her journey to becoming a certified professional midwife, the mentors and peers who helped her along the way, how she selected her school and program, her vision for the future, her perspective of the current state of healthcare and where she sees it going in the next 10 years, what she's learned that she wished she would have known prior to starting midwifery school, and what she wished she would have known prior to becoming a doula. If you're new here, welcome to the Melanin Initiative. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison. I'm one of your co-hosts here at the Melanin Initiative podcast, along with Alicia and Geraldine, who send their love in their absence. We are a health literacy podcast, offering our nursing perspective. When we say health literacy, we're talking about the ability to obtain information, to understand information, and to use that information to manage your health and advocate for others. By watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app, we hope you feel empowered to ask questions, educated on how you can manage your health, and that you feel confident to navigate the system. If you haven't already, take the time to subscribe so you can be notified when we release a new episode. Thumbs up the video and leave a comment or two. It shows the YouTube algorithm that this information is valuable, and it'll make sure people just like you will hear it. As a quick disclaimer, remember this show is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed here are our opinions alone. They're not a representation of any of our affiliations. If you're experiencing a medical emergency, you should seek medical attention and medical guidance from your healthcare provider. If you're having a physical emergency, you can call 911. And if you or someone you might know is having a mental health emergency, you can call 988. Charity, welcome to the Melanin Initiative. We are so delighted to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I have been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, so everyone, I met Doula Bean. She was a fabulous speaker at a recent virtual conference, the Black Maternal Health Virtual Conference. And prior to you coming on, actually, we had, oh gosh, now I'm going to forget her name.
Camilla.
Yes, she came on and told us all about the conference and about the history of the Black Nurses Association. So she was kind enough to share about the conference. I attended, found you, and you've agreed to be our guest and teach us more about midwifery. We're going to follow your journey just like we're following Clarence and Demetrius each semester so that we can just see what it's like, right? Firsthand, watch how your perspective evolves and support you in your journey. And most importantly is inspire the next generation, introduce them to other options in healthcare. That's really to the two missions that we have here. Informing the public and increasing health literacy, but also inspiring the next generation who wants to be a part of healthcare.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. We really have to inspire to make people want to do this work. It can be intimidating, any aspect of healthcare. I mean, I have a teenage son now, so when I talk to him sometimes about what I do for a living, he's like cringing, like, ugh, you look at what? Or blood? Nope, not for me. Right. And I'm like, it's not that bad. There's so many levels to it. Things I wish I knew how many levels are to healthcare.
Yes, that's a wonderful way to describe it. So before we jump into our questions, can you tell us what all those abbreviations are after your name?
Absolutely. So my name is Charity, last name Bean. I am better known as Doula Bean. There's many abbreviations behind my name, which I've narrowed them down now. Certified Medical Assistant. I am also a certified full spectrum doula, CLC, which is a certified lactation counselor. I'm also a community health worker, that's CHW, and currently a student midwife. So that's all those are.
So we've done now, at least I've aired, I don't know when your show is going to air, but we have introduced our audience to doulas, and we've actually introduced them to full spectrum doulas as well. We had a doula from Michigan come on, Alexandria Van Doe, and she introduced us to that term. So thank you. What is a community health worker?
So community health worker is basically like a community resource, right? So it's a person who works in the community. You don't have to just totally focus on like perinatal, right? That's just my passion. But you can be a part of people's healthcare, like a case manager kind of. You are able to go in homes with your like people in your community, help them, help educate, empower, help them navigate through the healthcare system. So, I mean, the best way I could do it, if I gave you an example in my line of work, if I had a mom and she was my client as the community health worker, and let's say she needed assistance with getting enrolled in like Medicaid or like, you know, SNAP benefits, WIC, finding those things and helping them navigate the resources available for them, right? Or even helping them through, let's say she had blood pressure issues. So being that person who's there to come do home checks, wellness, you know, helping her take her blood pressure, making sure they get their medications, things of that nature. So that's kind of what a community health worker is, but it's a person who's involved in their community who is helping promote health literacy, educating the community, you know, hosting seminars, workshops and things about, you know, and I would say whatever you're passionate about, because don't just jump in and do anything. Like kidneys ain't my specialty, so you will not probably see me hosting something about kidneys, but I know a little bit, right? So most people work in their specialty that serves their community. I know those who work in trauma, you know, relationship abuse, different forms. So it's almost like a step down from like a social worker in that aspect, basically.
Oh, I'm glad. I was going to actually ask you to tell me the difference between that and a social worker. So that's beautiful. And is there like you have to be certified to do this?
Well, most people actually naturally are. Like I found myself some of the things that came with the certification. I'm like, oh, I just do it anyway. And that's a person who's out in their community, trying to improve their community. Everything from nutrition, you know, those social determinants of health that we're struggling with, advocating. Those are the things that come with this work. As a social worker, of course, you go to college and a university, a 4-year degree, and you can work. It's like a step above, right? Almost like how an LPN can only do this, but an RN can, you know, start IVs, do the education, things like that. It's kind of like in that aspect of it, where if something kind of gets out of your hands as the community health worker, which you're here to help navigate and get them the resources, you kind of streamline them to the social worker who may be able to, you know, really put in other calls or, you know, have connections elsewhere. I feel like they go hand in hand personally, because community health workers get more respect though, and are more trusted because we're of the community for the community, versus when you hear the term social worker and that instantly puts up like a red flag. Because social work, social work generally in our past, if somebody in African American and somebody says social workers come in, especially like a family, you automatically think they're about to like ruin my life, you know. They're going to tell on me, you know, I'm going to be judged here. They're going to report something, take away my kids, those sorts of things. So that's really and not to knock social workers. I think you're great, but I think we need to come up with a new word because those aren't working.
Oh, this is very interesting. Yeah, I love that you brought up these other dynamics, right? Because they are important to the community. And there's a lot of students out here who want to be in social work. So it's good to hear these other paths, and maybe they do the community health worker for, you know, just to kind of dip their toe in before they make that huge investment. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do agree. That's a good point. Yeah, like starting with some of these certifications that actually introduce you to the work before you just dive head in, because like you said, some people get in these things and then realize this isn't even what I want to do, or it's not what I thought it would be. That's that great initial exposure before going to that next level.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do here. And Charity's helping us by showing us different avenues to get into healthcare. While I think nursing is great, being a doctor is great, right? Once we get in the field, we know there's actually thousands of jobs. And it's like, I wish I would have just known, you know, wish I would have just known and had the options. So that's what we're trying to hopefully do here. So just tell us a little bit about your childhood, kind of where you're from and what that part of your journey was like.
Absolutely. So I am born and raised in Belleville, Illinois, right outside of Scott Air Force Base. That all my life here, right? Little kind of Southern Illinois-ish, because the moment I say Illinois, you either think most people think Chicago, and I am nowhere near it. I love Chicago, by the way, so don't get mad at me, guys. But that's like 4 hours away. So I'm actually closer to St. Louis, which is right outside of where I live, like 25 minutes away from, you know, the Arch. So of course I resonate a little more with the Cardinals versus the Cubs. Just to throw that out there. I would think I had a great childhood. My parents were married. I probably, to some people when I talk about it, depending on who listens to it, it's shocking to say I'm a little abnormal. Like my dad read me bedtime stories every night, you know, kind of spoiled right here. Then you have my mom. My parents are like the exact opposite. Like she's hot, he's cold type of deal. My dad's the calm one. My mom is like shoot first, ask questions later. So I think I'm a mixture of them. And I have a little brother who, of course, outgrew me. Now that we're adults, he's my little big brother now. I know, right? He's like 6'6". I'm barely 5'5". So I have my brother, and that's why I grew up in a 2-parent home with my little brother, and great family, great dynamic, typical. Now that I see social media, I definitely had the typical Black mom experience. Definitely realized we all had the same Black mom and furniture and rules that you could not touch the living room, right? But no, I would think I had a great childhood, honestly. Nothing that I would complain. I was a teen mom. I became a mom at 18. So not that my parents had anything to do with that. Just me. Yeah.
And was anyone in your family in healthcare?
No, actually. None of my family members that I could think of immediately actually finished high school. I mean, no, did finish high school. Pardon me. They finished high school. They didn't go on to college. My dad did do some college, but then he decided to go into the workforce. So everybody around me pretty much had been in the workforce, but decided not to go to college necessarily, get in healthcare. But the interesting thing about it is they all were very, like, I would say health literacy, but not like to the point of medical jargon. It's one of those things where you just know, and you know how we have those like family things that you do when something's not going on, you know, like Vicks Vapor Rub, and of course ginger ale can almost fix anything, right? Or you hear your aunts or somebody say, oh, they got the sugar, you know, and now I'm like, diabetes, right? You know, it's like, oh, okay. But they had books and things of that nature where they would read the information and know, but they always put it into their terms. And so for me, it made me understand early on, and like almost like the gifts of my aunt used to pass into me, like to notice when something is off, when somebody's not feeling well or something going on. So they never worked in healthcare, but I guess you would almost say that holistic experience where they just kind of knew based on what was passed down to them.
I love that you brought up the like kind of those home remedies or like cultural remedies. Last summer we had on Kenya Hutton for our DC Black Pride episode, and we had a whole segment on the benefits of ginger ale, how it's the cure-all for everything.
Absolutely. And you know, in the Black home, and not all, but most, when you after you get your period and you're a girl and you say your stomach hurt, what's the first thing they say? I know you better not be pregnant. It's like, I can't have diarrhea. What are we talking about here? You know?
So tell us your journey to becoming a certified professional midwife and what that means.
Oh my, this means the world to me. So I will be completely honest. I'm going to say since maybe 2014, I wanted to become a nurse. I was like, oh, you know, once I got into working in the healthcare, that started in 2009. And I actually started even in healthcare because I had a baby young, and, you know, they have programs like Chassis. And in order to qualify, you have to have a Monday through Friday job. Well, I couldn't find anything else Monday through Friday other than being a receptionist at what happened to be my son's family practitioner's office. So that's how I even got into healthcare. And I started in the front desk. So slowly but surely, it started to spark my interest by seeing, you know, MAs and things in the back. And I got curious with clinical things because I've always been interested in science. So then you just kind of fast forward to 2014. I went through medical assistant school through Vatterott, just graduated. I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna be a nurse. Well, here comes a dead stop when you go to school and you figure out that those credits that you got over here at Vatterott, that kind of school, those trade schools do not cross over to, you know, like community colleges or universities. You have to start all over. And I'm like, what? I just spent all this, you know, federal money. I don't have enough to go, right? Scholarships were not very plentiful. And again, it was something I never thought about in high school. So I'm like starting all over again, which was very frustrating. So that plus being a single mom, having to work full time, pay bills, it just took my journey longer. And when I finally did get accepted into nursing school in 2018, per usual, you know, what happens in life, you get there, you're like, I'm going to wing it. I ran out of financial aid because I have been taking classes in and out for so long. I also, couldn't afford to quit my job like that. So you kind of had to give it up. And then as time was going on, just hoping and banking on getting like scholarships and things. and they just wasn't coming through or enough to pay bills. So that became discouraging. And I ended up literally failing out of school by less than like 2 points on like an exam. That last point that like took you down, I was like, oh my gosh. So I took a break. I was discouraged. I tried again. You know, you go into another school, you get accepted. Here's Chamberlain. I'm like, yay, I'm in. And then boom, the fee. I'm like, I can't afford to keep coming. So, you know, I kept trying. I tried one more time with another school, like literally over an hour away from my home, called Kaskaskia. And, you know, I won a couple scholarships finally. But again, it's just never enough because it's not adding up to the gas. And I'm driving over an hour to get to school and back. And all these things just started to weigh in on me. Felt like I wasn't doing my job as a mom because I'm missing games, I'm missing homework, I'm missing all these things. And then again, same concept. I failed by like 2 points. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to keep doing this, right? So I took that as maybe God's way of saying to me, this is not what I had planned for you. Because in the midst of that time, and it really sent me in a dark depression, like, why can't I get done? I see all these people doing these things. I know I have the, you know, intelligence to do it. I know I have all these things. Why am I struggling? I ended up becoming a doula in that time when I discovered what that was, because I'd been working in labor and delivery for a few years at a local hospital. And that's where I discovered what doulas were. And then I took a training and became a full spectrum doula. And it just kind of opened so many doors to me, and as well as my eyes to the next level, because I was under the impression the only way to become a midwife was you had to be a nurse midwife. I didn't even know CPMs existed until I took that doula training. And so you fast forward, and last year, I finally worked up the nerve to apply to midwifery school, because I was like, I'm done with nursing school. It's just not for me, or it's not the time, right? And sure enough, I found a college that is the Midwives College of Utah. It's flexible with not only being a single mother, but as well as the fact that I'm a birth worker. So if I get called to a birth, you know, nursing school doesn't care about that. That's you supposed to be in this clinical setting, but I'm taking births to survive, right? You know, I have to take these people on because I don't make enough money, right? So the fact that they're flexible, very understanding, and I'm in a bachelor's program, and then ended up, by the grace of God, getting some of those loans forgiven for like Bachelor in places that you went to, because I wasn't able to actually utilize the degree because it was from Bachelor and they had a bad rep. It kind of just all worked out gracefully in my favor. And this has been the best experience I've had with school so far, and being an adult learner, you know, an adult in general with a life and trying to do other things and run a business. It's definitely been a journey. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't so hard and depressing, and so many people were trying to talk me out of going this route. You got to be a nurse first. You're going to limit yourself. You're not going to have the doors. But I do personally feel like it was God's way of saying, I'm going to let you keep knocking your head. I will let you get in all these schools because you are smart enough, dear, but this is not my route for you. And I will truly say I have been at peace, not as stressed or depressed since I decided to go this route.
Wow, what a testimony. Actually, I love that you came through the MA route, right? That's, again, dipping our toe in, kind of seeing if we like what we're doing. I love that you brought up the money part, because I actually didn't know that if you spend all the money over at technical school, well, two things. One, that those credits don't transfer. That's very important.
Right. And they tell you it does. Liars.
Oh, okay. And then the money, right? I also ended up running out of financial aid too, which I don't think people really talk about.
They don't. I'm like, that's a thing.
Yeah. So yeah, and thank you for just being so transparent and sharing that, you know, the ups and downs of the journey, right? But I love that you also still pursued your passion, and that you ended up in a place that you found peace.
Thank you.
You mentioned something I'm not familiar with. You said, I think it's called Chassis. You said you have to be able to go through Monday through Friday. What is that?
So Chassis is a program. I do believe it's federal, but I know for a fact that in the state of Illinois it exists, because that's where I'm from. And Chassis is a program that helps you pay for daycare assistance for you to go to work, right? And they'll pay some of those fees. Now, mind you, let's clarify here. My son is 16. So we are talking about 2008 through like maybe 2011-ish, 12, from the time of utilizing it. So it could have changed a lot since then. But basically, the hard part was you had to find a daycare that would take it first, right? Or in-home provider, whatever the case may be. The problem is when you get private providers, it was a lot harder a lot of people would turn you away because the state, just like Medicaid, takes so long to pay, and also sometimes doesn't pay the full amount, right? And I personally couldn't afford, and this is then the time, the fees to send him to daycare for me to go to work. And the only way to also get that consistency was to have a Monday through Friday job. So I couldn't work those crazy hours that I was before, you know, like an evening job or something like that, because, you know, let's just say even if I did have a family member or a friend or somebody with in-home daycare, no offense to in-home daycares, but some of them had, like, if life happened for them, they're closed. Well, that means I can't go to work. So I had to go to a daycare center where if somebody called off, they got a backup, right? So those sorts of things. And that was a big issue for me. So trying to find something that was consistent, basically like Monday through Friday, you know, 8 to 5. And I'll never forget, that was what the worker lady there told me. The caseworker was like, you need to find something like this because it'll be easier for you to, you know, get these services, because you get some that didn't cover weekends. It would be too all over the place if you had that random schedule. So that's why I ended up, you know, taking that job on, because of the consistency and the guaranteed hours. And like I say, I would say God makes no mistakes, because I had no intention of ever working in healthcare. I was a bank teller and working at Shoe Carnival before I went there. So it worked out, I guess, how it should, because you couldn't have told me at that time that I was going to work in healthcare. I'd have said you were crazy.
Yeah, so interesting. So did you have any mentors or peers who helped you along the way?
Oh my God, the list goes on. So I will say that my number one, the first one ever, I would say really influenced me to get into healthcare would be Dr. McDermott. Her name is Dr. Ella McDermott. And that came from working in the office with her one-on-one. So I promise you, I must have like the curse of the short staff. I've never been at a job in healthcare where we have been fully staffed and that I actually did just my role. And so I've gotten so used to multitasking and doing other things, but it opened doors and it taught me how to do these things and say, okay, I guess I can, because it was just me and her. We either didn't have an MA because somebody got, you know, fired or quit or something or was gone. And then it started having issues with the one nurse in the office that we would have that we couldn't keep them. And so, but the show must go on. And we grew to get so close and had a great relationship. I loved her. And then another lady came along, Candace Charles, and we wanted to keep the place going, right? Another provider. So I'm like, well, somebody got to do it. So I became everything from the front desk to the MA. Not only did I check you in, I go in, get your vitals. She taught me everything I need to know. I need you to ask this. I'm triaging. She said, this is what I need to know, right? They like, this is how we going to do the show. Creating an organization system. And this is back before Epic. So you're talking about somebody who has like an Excel log of who gets their, you know, prescription meds. They got to be picked up, when, stamping, all that stuff, right? And that just kind of inspired me to say, I could do this work, because I've always been taught by, you know, like providers, people above me, and then getting into the actual work of OB, because I've done everything from ER, trauma, psych, you name it. So I've always gone close to my providers, and I've learned something from each one. And then in OB, I would say Dr. Adrena Beatty, Dr. Michael Coughlin, Dr. Kelsey. There's like some of my top 3 people who I would say, and Dr. Porter and Dr. Deborah Carson have taught me so much. And then when I became a doula, I was able to teach them a lot, as well as them really showing me, you know, other aspects to this work. And I feel like I opened their eyes to more of, you know, patient informed choice, showing that the patients got this, how much this can benefit you if they have this education, and doulas coming in and support. So it was just really great to do that and open those doors. But I think without the influence from those people, and them like literally like grabbing you by the coattails because ain't nobody here, and they like, okay, come on, we finna go do this. Midwife, I almost forgot, she no longer does, Sylvia Obenuperman, and just being there, and they're like, Charity, I want you to do this, or, you know, we're gonna do that, mostly because we ain't have enough people, and also because it was like they saw something in me. And so I'm very thankful for those who guided me.
Oh, that's wonderful. What advice do you have for people who still are unsure about whether or not they should even try to find a mentor?
Oh, goodness, please. I will tell you that if you think you don't need a mentor, you absolutely do. I would say that 100%, because you need someone to help you navigate this work. And it doesn't have to be just one. Find multiple people, because if you don't learn from multiple people and their experience, you're only going to come in one-sided. I've worked with everybody from, you know, midwives, nurses, doctors. I've just seen such a variety of the way people do things. and how you can get things done, as well as how we can come together and make it better. So if you think you don't need a mentor, I 100% tell you that you will be lost. You also, because networking in general, and a lot of times it's not what you know, but I hope you know a lot, is who you know. And so getting in those spaces, mentoring, and letting people see what you can do can open so many doors for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. How did you select your school and your program?
Oh my goodness. So because I've been burned so many times in the past with schools and things, and my own personal experience, I literally researched day and night. I had like 10 on my list. I'm looking up reviews from social media. I want to see, what was the experience, let alone what was the experience as an African-American student, because we forget that. A Caucasian student's experience may be top tier, but your African-American population, and I also want to know how many African-Americans do you even have in school? What's your percentage right here? How are we finishing? Because what is going on in this school that we're not, right, and struggling? So after all these years of bumping my head and, getting stuck and being in debt, I had to search near and far and do my research on what school I felt meshed better with me. And so MCU had been on my list for quite some time. They had revamped their program. So by the time when I finally was ready to apply, they went from an associate's program into a bachelor's, and now they even have masters. And I was like, okay, this is the right time, because I had it on my list since like 2018, but I just never applied. I was like, nah, it just ain't the right time. People were kind of talking me out of it, but I was full on ready, and things have gone amazing since then. A couple bumps in the road, because life be life, and as I like to say, but it's been a great experience.
And where are you along in your program?
This is my first year. I'm actually just finishing my first semester, going into the summer here soon. Can't wait. So that starts May the 6th. And again, that was nerve-wracking, like just kind of getting the feel of it. But I'd done online school before. So it's a lot of responsibility on you, but it's also better for me, again, as an adult learner. So for me, instead of having to, it became very stressful to have to report to, a classroom 2-3 days a week, then be here, be there. The flexibility of allowing me to, find my preceptor, get with people who I've honestly already known, who are willing to take me under their wing and learn firsthand from them, as well as, hey, if you can't make the live class, there's a recording. So you have up to a week to go in and, do your work, get it turned in, things of that nature. As long as you communicate, if you were in a birth and need an extra day or something of that nature, they'll allow it, right? So those are all things that just stood out to me, like this is the place.
Oh, I love that. And so what's your vision for the future?
My vision, in all honesty, the ultimate goal is, right now I just achieved one goal of opening my pregnancy resource center, the Doula Lab in Belleville, Illinois, which is where I want to offer, I'm offering classes, myself and all of my birth worker friends within the area we now have a space to do all the work that we have been doing. Because when I say we have been lugging our items, you'll see us rolling around with babies and stuff. And I had people stare at me awkward. I'm like, it's not real. It's in my arm. I know, to go teach class and do these things. So now that I've checked that off my list and got this center up and running, the ultimate goal in the next 3 to 5 years, I would actually like to own my own equal access midwifery clinic in East St. Louis, Illinois.
And she's going to be back. We're going to learn more about the Doula Lab. So this is just she's just giving us a little hint on how she became the guest star of this series.
Thank you.
So what's your perspective of the current state of healthcare? You can even just focus on maternal health if you choose to. And where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
Truthfully, if I can tell you what I think healthcare is, in all honesty, trash. That's just the honest. It's like a trash can on fire. And truly, in my mentality, and I know it's a lot more to it, but sometimes I'm just like, this could all be so simple, yet we're here making it difficult. Like I said, lack of health literacy, things of that nature that could really just make an impact and change the outcome of where healthcare is. Personally, I think it's just for profit, and people have forgotten the true meaning of health and wellness for people. That's just my personal opinion. And I hope that one day we can get back to that, if we're just talking about overall health and truly actually want to help heal, facilitate healing, preventative care, numero uno, let's start there. And of course, maternal health in the United States, I'm still in awe of us to be one of the most advanced, quote unquote, countries and one of the wealthiest nations. And for maternal health in general to be as low as it is, I believe we rank like number 54, 57 out of the nations. We've dropped drastically since COVID. And as well as Black maternal health, for us as Black women to be in 2024, and this is the treatment we're getting. This is the rates of us dying. This is what's being ignored. So for me, I think it's definitely a trash can on fire. My goal, I hope, is that they actually start at the root, and that's in maternal health and healthcare in general. Let's start at the bottom here. Let's start at the root. Let's break down this system and let's start over. Let's start over. Let's go forward with fresh ideas. Let's bring back some things that make sense. Let's get rid of the things that don't. And let's truly promote health and wellness.
And where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
I honestly hope it's going in a better direction with a lot of things are finally, making headway. I love that people are now the good use of social media, right? Like being able to voice these things and get this information out more so people can vote and help make these differences and, inspire others to get into the work of health advocacy and literacy, things of that nature. I think it's going to head in the right direction. I like that we are now starting to, support with the Medicaid, like doulas and things, and expansion across states for like postpartum care and things. So I am very happy that it seems like we're headed that way. And I hope that we can get, I hope that we can go forward more in that direction and make some major changes. Because it seems like things are starting to improve. But, we got to get this voting thing together.
Sorry, everyone, about the dog barking. He always has to have his word during these interviews.
That's okay. I had guests come in, so no worries. Sorry.
What have you learned that you didn't know prior to midwifery school?
Oh my gosh. The history. First of all, I wanted to say learning the history of midwifery and women's health dating back to, ancient times, right? So learning more about that. I will also say learning more about what it is to be a woman, just existing on earth as a woman, our bodies, what we're capable of, the history, truly learning about what it is to be a woman and a Black woman at that. I would say that is one of the most empowering experiences and things I have learned since being on this journey.
And what do you wish you would have known prior to becoming a doula?
Prior to becoming a doula, I wish I would have known more about the negativity. You hear little things like in your own area, right? But I wish I knew more about the negativity that people, providers nationwide felt towards us, more about the divide, almost like it's truly always a war, right? It's always a war against something. And I just don't understand that. It's so much birth and everything to go around. So why are we tussling? Right. Honestly, I also didn't know, and I haven't personally experienced it, but just things I'm hearing and seeing, like almost like cliquey, or like you almost want to say like gangs, like we don't mess with this doula gang over there. You don't mess with that, or this birth work and this and that. And I'm like, are we all here for the same mission? Because I'm confused, right? So those are the things I wish I knew more about. I don't think it would have deterred me, but it's just one of the things that, like, now that you're in it and you hear more about it, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe that this is what's happening right now.
And as we close out, any advice for those who are thinking about becoming a certified professional midwife?
My advice would be to definitely check your state laws. That's numero uno. Check into your state laws, look around, make sure that you are also networking early on. Network, build those connections early on with everybody in your community, the pediatrician's office, the OBs, the midwives, whomever. Just start making sure you're building those connections early on, because you're going to need those once you enter school, and it's going to help you along when you're looking for preceptors and you're looking to get into this work. So networking, getting to know people, and creating those strong foundations would be my best advice.
Wonderful. We learned so much in just a short amount of time, and there's so much more to learn, and we look forward to having you back to learn more about your business, the Doula Lab, and to get more into the nitty-gritty of your school work and what the rigor of that looks like. I want to shout out Dr. Camilla Barnes for introducing me to you, and then for you agreeing to be on this platform and allowing us to follow your journey. You can email us your show.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you want to say something before we close out?
Oh, no, I was saying thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Remember, everyone, you can email us your questions and show ideas to tmi.melanin@gmail.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on every social media platform. Say hello when you get there. Please share the show with your friends. Rate the Apple Podcast and Spotify, and leave a comment. It really helps the show get more support, and it gets the message out there to those who need to hear it. You can find us on all our social media. Links will be in the description box, and any resources that we brought up today will be there as well. We release a new show. I'm in the process of deciding if we're still going to stay on Tuesdays. I think I'm moving new shows to Sundays. So just subscribe and follow us on social media so you can be notified when we make that change and announce it. But you can listen on all your favorite podcast apps. And once again, we thank you so much for continuing to support this show. This is season 3, our 1-year anniversary, and we just can't thank you all enough. And this is just the beginning, right? We're going to keep going. So thank you, Charity. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time.